What's up, everybody? Welcome to Activate True Health. My name's Alex Densberg. In this video, I'm going to be busting some common fruit myths. Does fruit have too much sugar? Does fruit cause diabetes? Does the sugar in fruit feed cancer? All that's coming up. Okay, so many people believe that fruit should be eaten in limited quantities only because of its high sugar content. Now this sounds like it makes sense because fruit has sugar and sugar is bad, right? Well, that's not the complete story. To actually understand this, you have to understand why sugar is labeled bad in the first place. So sugar is not bad inherently. What's actually bad is high blood sugar, because high blood sugar creates oxidative stress, which causes wear and tear on the arterial linings, causes damage to cells and their receptors, such as the insulin receptors. And for example, when insulin receptors get damaged, they're not as sensitive, which creates insulin resistance, or also known as type 2 diabetes. And it also depletes the body of nutrients because the body has to create more of its endogenous antioxidants to quench this oxidative stress that the sugar is causing. And to make these antioxidants requires nutrients, minerals, and amino acids. Now, the second part of this, of why high blood sugar is toxic, is because high blood sugar creates high insulin levels. Insulin is a carrier hormone, has a lot of functions, but one of its main functions is to bring glucose into the cells. So whenever you have high blood sugar, you have high insulin levels to get all the sugar into the cells. Now, insulin can cause insulin resistance, just like oxidative stress can, but in a different way. Basically what happens is when there's so much insulin in the blood that the cells, they start to get sick of hearing insulin. Like they don't want to hear it anymore because insulin's constantly there knocking on their door, and the cells start to get sick of it, and they put on earmuffs. They turn down their sensitivity to insulin, and that creates insulin resistance. And this causes the pancreas to produce more insulin to force the sugar into the cells. And this, there's more insulin, which creates more insulin resistance, which causes the pancreas to pump out more insulin, and then this vicious cycle continues. Another thing about insulin, high insulin levels can lead to high body weight because insulin is a fat storing hormone. High insulin levels has also been linked to cancer because insulin is also a growth hormone, and we all have cancer cells in our body. Like I have some in my body right now, you have some in your body right now, but normally our immune system takes care of them before they can become a problem. And there's many factors that can cause them to become a problem, but one factor is high insulin levels because it's a growth hormone. So having high insulin just increases the chance that these cancerous cells grow out of control before the immune system can get to them. All of our hormones are interconnected. They're not separate from each other at all. So when one hormone goes up, other ones can either go up or down because they're all connected. So in women, when insulin levels go up, their testosterone levels go up. And when their testosterone levels go up, this can cause issues with ovulation, cause them to not ovulate. And if they're not ovulating, they're not producing progesterone, because that's the main way progesterone is produced, is during ovulation. So without that progesterone, estrogen can get out of balance because estrogen and progesterone balance each other out, and if one's off, then the other one can become an issue. So there's interconnectedness there where estrogen can take over because of high insulin levels in women. And this can create all sorts of estrogen dominance issues, such as polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. It can cause mood swings, anxiety, weight gain, low sex drive, and in men, all sorts of other issues too. And in men, it actually lowers testosterone. High insulin lowers testosterone and raises estrogen as well. And a lot of the same issues can occur. So having blood sugar spikes and chronically elevated blood sugar is definitely bad. This comes from eating foods like pastries and donuts and bread and most types of pasta and rice and cereal, any types of processed sugar, and also drinks like soda, Gatorade, anything with added sugar like coffee or lemonade. But sugar itself isn't actually bad. Sugar is actually an essential nutrient that we need to create cellular energy called ATP. Our mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cells. They produce energy, and their favorite way to make energy is from glucose, is from sugar. They mix sugar and oxygen and a bunch of other cofactors to produce cellular energy. Fruit does not spike our blood sugar the way that processed carbs do. The only exception is dried fruit, because it's such a concentrated form of fruit that it spikes your blood sugar a little bit, but which is why it should be limited. But fructose is the main sugar that's in most fruits. It's usually in a higher concentration than glucose. There's some exceptions, like I think apples have more glucose than fructose. Most of fructose goes to the liver to be metabolized into glycogen or stored energy, but the rest of the fructose that goes throughout the body doesn't need a carrier hormone like glucose. Glucose needs insulin to get into the cell. Fructose actually gets pulled directly in by diffusion, so the pancreas doesn't have to produce any insulin for it, which makes it extremely good for diabetics. So fruit, it doesn't spike our blood sugar because it's not just fructose and glucose, which is like what table sugar is. Sucrose is table sugar, which is actually fructose and glucose combined. But fruit has fiber, it has phytochemicals, polyphenols, it has antioxidants, it has vitamins, it has minerals, it has water, and all these different constituents work together synergistically to ease the release of sugar into the bloodstream, so there's not a big spike. So this study here showed there was a group of people that they showed that they would mix water and table sugar and drink it, and they measured their blood sugar spike, and it was massive from just drinking that sugar water. What they did after that is they took the same sugar water and they also had them eat a few berries at the same time. And when they did this, the blood sugar spike was actually blunted massively because of the berries. Even though there was more sugar originally, or there was more sugar than originally because they had the berries that had the sugar too, the actual blood sugar spike was so much lower because of the cofactors that are found in the fruit. This study here shows how fiber can actually slow the release of glucose into the bloodstream because it can decrease the absorption of it in the intestines. And this study here shows how phytochemicals, polyphenols, in fruit actually slow the release of blood sugar, or slow the release of sugar into the bloodstream as well, because again, it's decreasing the absorption rate, which means it enters the bloodstream more slowly. Nature understands how to package food exactly for us. Homo sapiens are a frugivorous species. We're designed to eat fruit, and nature knows how to prepare our food for us. It's only when we try to extract and isolate compounds such as sugar from our foods that we begin to run into problems with it. There's tons of myths about fruit, and one of them is that eating too much fruit can cause diabetes. Well, I already kind of explained this earlier, how insulin resistance, which is a huge part of diabetes, is actually caused by oxidative stress or high insulin levels, which both of those don't come from fruit. But another way that diabetes can be created is from saturated fats or trans fats. Well, what happens is these fats actually get inside the insulin receptors and gum it up, and insulin can no longer effectively communicate its message to the cell. So saturated fats come mostly from animal products, and trans fats come from processed foods, fried foods, partially hydrogenated oils. So consuming too many of either of these can definitely contribute to insulin resistance and diabetes type 2. This 7-year study here, done on 500,000 people, showed that fruit had a positive impact on people with diabetes, reducing their further complications with diabetes, reducing their mortality rate, and also it reduced the risk of getting type 2 diabetes. Another myth is that fruit sugar feeds cancer. I hear this one all the time from people who are trying to heal themselves of cancer naturally. They're told, don't eat fruit because fruit has sugar and sugar feeds cancer. Well, again, this is only partially true. This is true if you're eating processed sugars that don't have all the constituents that fruit has. So what's actually going on with someone who has cancer is their body is overly acidic. There's a buildup of positively charged hydrogen ions around their cells. That's what pH means, potential of hydrogen. So they're overly acidic. They have these hydrogen ions around their cells. This hydrogen repels oxygen. So when the blood is trying to bring oxygen and sugar into the cells to create cellular energy, the oxygen is repelled and only the sugar can get into the cell. Now, the sugar gets into the cell without the oxygen, and the mitochondria go through this process called anaerobic glycolysis, where they ferment sugar, and a byproduct of this fermentation is lactic acid, and this lactic acid feeds cancer cells. Cancer cells love this lactic acid. They thrive on it. So yes, if you're eating sugar that doesn't have all the constituents, and that fruit does, it doesn't have the alkalizing properties, it does feed cancer. But fruit is alkalizing. It brings negatively charged hydroxyl ions into the cell, neutralizes all the hydrogen, and allows oxygen to properly get into the cell, and the mitochondria can properly respire oxygen and sugar for cellular energy, ATP. And this cellular energy is actually what fuels the immune system in order for it to be able to take care of the cancer. So fruit and vegetable sugars do not feed cancer. Fruit and vegetable sugars actually alkalize the system, allow tissues and cells to become properly oxygenated, and actually fuel the immune system to beat the cancer. A lot of this fruit phobia that people have, it comes from studies that have been done on fructose and isolated sugars like high fructose corn syrup, and showed negative health effects. And when you start to isolate and extract chemistry, you start to pull sugars out of fruit or beets or whatever, you start to get problems in the body, because that's not how our bodies were designed. We're not designed we're designed to eat whole foods. Everything all the nutrients that are in a food, they all work synergistically. They all work together. They're all in the food in perfect ratios for our body. Everything works together. So when you start to extract and isolate things, it's no wonder that you get problems. So people take these studies that have been done on isolated fructose and say, well, that must be true for fruit then too, because fruit has high fructose, which is just not true. An example here is that there's a study that found a glycation effect, which is an aging effect of fructose. But then here's a study that shows the anti-glycation effects of fruit. Looking at health through the reductionist point of view of specific vitamins and minerals and different micro and macronutrients is only going to get us so far. We need to start looking at the whole picture of health, which is consuming whole foods, because that's the way that they're meant for our body. And whole foods, whole plant foods in any amount, even fruit. Here's a study that was done for 6 months on people who ate a mostly fruit diet, and all their blood work was perfect. Actually, it was slightly better than normal. I myself had my blood checked after I had a blood test done after 12 months of eating a really high fruit, like 80 or 90% of my calories coming from fruit. I had a blood test done. Everything came back perfect. The doctor was highly impressed. I hope you can see now that it's not sugar that's the enemy, but it's unnatural foods to the human body that are the enemy. Just like anything else, if you get too much of it at one time, it's going to be toxic to the body. The same thing with sugar. But if you eat natural foods like fruits and vegetables that ease sugar into your bloodstream, it's actually very beneficial for the body. So if there's any other myths that you guys can think of about fruit and sugar, please drop a comment. If you like this video, please smash the like button, and please subscribe to my channel here for more videos like this. I plan on creating a whole lot more. And also leave a comment if you have any ideas for videos that you want to see or topics you want to hear about. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Activate True Health. That's all one word. I'll see you guys soon. Love you. Namaste.